I'd like to welcome you this evening to meditation class. It's always a pleasure and it's great to see you all. It's important to be able to work with the meditations that are given, work with some of the conceptual framework, and make it understandable. Meditation should not be foreign. It should be a workable tool. So that's my goal. The practices and the perspective come from Tibetan Buddhism. Occasionally I will say Buddhist. Occasionally I will say Tibetan, especially because the 19th, coming right up, is Tibetan New Year. The holiday lasts actually for 2 weeks. One good way of meditating into the new year is to recognize that meditation is really about increasing positive qualities and letting go of qualities we don't need anymore. We could call them negative qualities, but we'll just call them qualities we don't need any. This is very important to remember because sometimes in meditation practice, difficult thoughts, pains, and so forth arise. We, of course, want to notice them. We don't want to deny them, but our goal is on increasing the positive and letting go of the negative. These are instructions for meditation practice. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we cannot always apply what we would like, and so we need to call upon other capacities, qualities. And I was thinking about the increase of positive qualities and the letting go of negative qualities. Sometimes there are certain kinds of pain that are difficult to let go of, which we think we should let go of. And sometimes these are medical, and of course that has to be integrated with the medical system. Sometimes there are psychological pains, and those have to be integrated with the psychological system. So it's important to know when we can use just meditation and when we need to integrate that with other kinds of systems that have a lot of smart wisdoms about them to address each situation. It's important to begin meditation with as clear inner body as we can. A lot of times in our day, our breath can stagnate, but when we're using our breath as one of the objects of meditation, it's not the only object of meditation, we do want to make sure that we open the inner channels in the body so that our breath can go all the way down, release any stagnant air. And we do this by what is called the 9 breaths. So the 9 breaths are a way to clear the inner channels of the body. And the reason for clearing the inner channels of the body is to allow for our meditation practice to go as deep as possible. And we'll move from the 9 breaths into the sound of Om Ahung. We move into sound because sound is also another way to connect with and clear within the body. Om is symbolic of the enlightened body, Ah, enlightened speech, and Hung, enlightened mind. So these are Sanskrit, what's called seed syllables. We utilize them. They're very ancient sounds, and we utilize those ancient sounds to begin the meditation practices. In some of the Tibetan practices, as one goes more deeply into, say, visualization of a deity or other kinds of practices, the Om Ahung is used pretty consistently. But for our purposes, we're going to use the sound as a way of opening within the body. And this evening we're going to work with the breath, so we want the body to be opened. And we're also going to work a little bit with spaciousness. We've worked with it before. We're going to continue that work. And we're also going to apply all of these into a loving kindness practice that is going to incorporate the body. So we begin with the 9 breaths as we thumb on the ring finger, not too tightly, and then closing the fist. And then our goal is to have a straight spine and then kind of within the psoas muscle. And we straighten as much as we can the arms, breathe in beginning on the left side, and we're going to breathe in as kind of far down as we can go, and then we breathe out 3 times on the opposite side. So we'll take the breath, and then we go to the other side, And then our final breath is coming all the way down as far as we can go, and then the 3 breaths out. And we feel that this is something that we can do at any time. In the morning, we can do this at any time. And then with the Om Ahung, if you wanted to add the visualization of white, red, blue, that's fine. If it's just the sound resonating, Om, Ah, Hung, feeling the sound resonance within the body, it kind of wakes it up and again brings more of that enlightened energy, that Om Ahung. Om. Ahung. Do it 3 times. Om. Ah. Om. And now we allow our attention to come deep within the body, deep within the lower abdomen, the hara, the dantian, the real core of our being. And we allow the breath to move naturally, no intentional holding. The spine is straight, and our head is resting comfortably on our neck, kind of like a puppet with a string, allowing ourselves to just relax into the body and relax into that core of our being. And so we allow for a restful attention there. We notice an expansion and contraction, and it's really a full feeling experience. Our eyes can be downcast, following the bridge of the nose and unfocused. If you like, they can be closed. And the attention is natural. As we become accustomed to meditation, we notice the restfulness of the attention. We might notice the mind bouncing from past, future. It's okay. There's nothing to push away, but a refocusing, a re-entry. Take a moment to relax, and then we're going to add some instruction. And before I continue, are there questions about how to be with the breath, how to be with the eyes slightly downcast? Any questions about practice at all? So as we take this space for the meditation practice, we also want to recognize that we're working, obviously, our mind-body system, but we're also working with our subtle body. That's why we work with the channels. That's why we work with the vision, because we're also working with the subtle body. We're going to include this evening a lot of times we really solidify. We solidify our thoughts, we solidify our feelings, we solidify everything. And we forget that there is space. There's space in the room. There's space within our mind-body systems. Molecules are moving in space. And we want to start to include space in our meditation as a way to open, as a way to learn non-attachment, and as a way to be with what is. And as we work with awareness, I'll read you a definition of awareness. Awareness generally means to be aware of something. We look at objects to recognize, identify, and try to understand them. This is common sense awareness. But as a living experience, natural awareness is simple, direct, open, and responsive without concepts, words, images, or interpretation. Awareness takes place within the first moment, not before, not after. First moment. It is immediate and spontaneous. There is no other thing to obscure the moment. There's no subject, there's no object, there's no time, there's no space. All that remains within this openness, which is neither words nor concepts that can describe, there is complete freedom from our restless attempts to hold on to something, to be secure in some distraction or some trance-like fixation. There's no fear, there's no guilt, There's no desire to escape to any other way. This awareness becomes complete self-acceptance and generates a fresh new outlook on its own. So a couple of tips around thoughts, because thoughts can sometimes be a little difficult. Whenever a thought arises, we usually feel the need to label and identify it, trying to stop the process. Although you can feel the thought, see it, experience it happening, the thought itself is a projection of the watcher. The thought is not separate from the watcher. To understand this, simply watch the flow of mental images through your mind. As past and future image projections go by, can you cut between them? Not by looking at the thoughts and the images, but by looking at who is watching the thoughts. Try to develop a feeling for the thoughts and watch the watcher. When you face the watcher directly, your awareness and the watcher become one. There's no self to watch anything. There's only watching, only the process. There's no subject and no object. The process is the experience, or you could say pure awareness. So we're going to work with our meditation. If thought arises, if it seems doable, without too much effort, can we either watch the watcher? Can we watch between thoughts, which is that space? And maybe we don't have to do any of it. We can be with awareness itself. So these are some tips that could be useful, not to overthink. We could possibly overthink this. Not to overthink, but to apply. It's called skillful means, and if the skillful means work, please use it. If the skillful means creates too much thinking, please do not use it. So we're going to try, and we're going to sit with that awareness, remembering it's the first moment, first thought, first feeling. The anchor is the breath. However, included in noticing the breath, we can also recognize spaciousness and awareness. Want to try? Spaciousness and awareness with our meditation practice. If thoughts come up, we watch the watcher or we cut between thoughts. And we'll begin. We do short sessions so that we can digest the material. And again, the eyes can either be downcast or closed. Eyes downcast allow for more spacious awareness. The eyes are unfocused. They're resting. We come within the central channel of the breath. If it's more helpful, we can sense the whole body sitting within the space of the room. The breath breathes on its own. We cultivate awareness with awareness itself. Take a moment. Any questions about that? A little different, right? A little bit different. Using awareness itself to cut through. Using awareness itself to cultivate itself, using spaciousness to allow us to open to more than we're used to. Did it feel natural or not natural? Good, good. We're going to do that again, but I want us to do a little walking meditation so we can deepen this kind of practice. It really takes a balance of relaxation with awareness, and in the walking, it helps to create that. The walking meditation is a time where we put the awareness to the body and its movement, so we can be aware of either the footsteps, we can be aware of the whole body in motion. Usually it's harder to be aware of the breath while we're walking, so we let go actually of the breath. We'll walk naturally in this room. There are different types of walking meditation. Some people walk slow, some people walk fast, but we're doing this so that we can put the meditation into motion, and then we'll come back in and see how it can deepen our practice. So we'll walk in a circle clockwise. I will join you. So if we, again, are relaxed, and we work with whatever word is feeling right to you, suffuse, infuse, feel, embody the feelings of loving kindness. We can do this by memory. We can do this by understanding. We can do this by a positive wish, wishing for the happiness and the causes of happiness. And we first infuse ourselves with that feeling. And another recollection, wouldn't it be wonderful if everyone had happiness and the causes of happiness? That we ourselves want to feel, embody, be suffused with, be the source of loving kindness, good feeling and goodwill, and feel that within our bodies. And then we naturally feel the extension, and it might even feel like a light. It might feel like an energy where we extend the good feeling and we wish and move that energy into the room, imagining situations in our lives, people in our lives. And again, with that reflection, wouldn't it be wonderful if they had happiness and the causes of happiness without attachment, without a time frame? And we extend that to our world, maybe places that are bogged down in war and famine and misunderstanding. And with that reflection, wouldn't it be wonderful if this place, these people, this situation could have happiness and its causes? And our energy becomes a force in the world when we do this. And then we bring our attention back into our own bodies, still embodying that feeling of loving kindness, of the wish for happiness. And now we'll take a moment to allow our breath to stabilize within the abdomen and to allow the wish for happiness and a loving kindness to blend with our breath and to stabilize our attention and open our awareness and just allow the methods to work naturally. And we'll maintain our awareness with the breath, with spaciousness, and with the body. And if thoughts arise, we cut literally through them and become aware of the watcher. We can gradually open our awareness into the whole body sitting, perhaps being aware of the breath, perhaps letting go of the breath, whatever is more comfortable. And we have an open awareness of the body sitting in space, but grounded. So within loving kindness meditation, it's the stabilizing of the wish for others. It's a centering within ourselves. It's the wish for ourselves and others to have the causes of happiness. It's also to be free of suffering. It also is a way to infuse, suffuse ourselves and our environment with that energy. It's also a nice way to counteract. It's considered a protective energy as well. And believe it or not, it fits with this book on Buddhism is about the Sanskrit and the Pali path. Pali being the old derivative of Sanskrit language. And so it all comes out of actually what's called right view. That really is the understanding of the selfless nature. And so the selfless nature needs to pervade so that there is the wisdom involved with not only the meditation, but also the loving kindness, the wishing of happiness to others. And it connects to another practice, which took me actually a little time to learn. It's been popularized by Pema Chodron. It's called Tonglen, and it's called taking and giving. It's considered an energy exchange of taking in suffering and breathing out positive energy and happiness and so forth. And the first time that I heard about Tonglen or thought about Tonglen, I thought, well, how would you do that and why would you want to? Why would you want to take on suffering and then give out all the positive energy, right? So I was at this kind of a large lecture in Los Angeles, and this very, very great Tibetan teacher, Tai Situ Rinpoche, was giving a talk and encouraging everyone to do Tonglen. And in the very detailed description of this meditation, one breathes in smoke and then breathes out radiant light to everyone else. So you're getting the smoke and they're getting the radiant light. So I thought, well, do you really want to do that? So I kept asking him, well, really? And I asked him the question so many times in so many different ways that finally he said to me, he said, really, it's all about emptiness. And then he said, now do you understand? And I said, actually, I did. All of the technique, sometimes we hear technique. I think there are great reasons for technique. There's many, many skillful means. But sometimes they don't speak to everyone. And that's always why I ask for questions, because I want to make sure that the skillful means are really speaking to everyone. So then I did a weekend retreat. The Geshe, who was staying there and did a weekend, I did Tonglen, and he said that I could present that afterwards. He also emphasized that once there was the breathing in, there was the understanding what was happening in one's heart, where we were going to breathe out and give all the good energy, was actually a wisdom piece. That we were understanding that both what was coming in and going out was empty of self. That was a great relief to me, because I thought, maybe I can't reach Buddhahood if this is what you're supposed to be doing. As soon as I understood that there was a lot of wisdom involved, that it's really that we have to recognize suffering. I mean, we can't turn away from suffering, and that we want to generate positive energy, and we want to be a force for good. And then at the same time, we want to help people. There's really a lot involved. Things can go the other way too, because like in my initial training, where I would sit through a lot of pain, or I would sit through a lot of physical difficulty, or lots of thoughts or emotions would come up, and I learned to sit through all of it. But sometimes you can't sit through all of it. I know there were people who were trained in the same way I was, and happened to be with two different people very close to their death. They both said to me, I can't sit with this pain, and they had very bad cancer that was eating their body. And I said, this isn't what was meant. And one person went with medication and the other person didn't, because their training was that you sat through pain. You have to work with things as they are. Pain medication is okay. That we want to find balance in everything that we do, whether it's life situations, whether it's working with loving kindness, whether it's our meditation practice, whether it's our stabilization. It's always finding the balance within that system, so we don't push ourselves too far one way or too far another way. So are there questions about loving kindness meditation? Sometimes loving kindness can be a concept rather than a feeling. Really, loving kindness is a feeling, just like kind of feeling the sunlight, especially when we haven't felt it for a long time. It feels really good. So feeling loving kindness, and sometimes the generating of loving kindness takes mental reflection, like reflecting. One reason that, say, a traditional loving kindness starts with someone who we really like or love, that really does generate good feeling. And we want to carry that forth into maybe difficult situations, difficult people. And it's a challenge sometimes. I'm not saying because we learn loving kindness meditation that we're with somebody who's very difficult and we can love right through it. Maybe eventually, not always right away. But more and more, be surprised. People really want that energy. They want the causes. They just don't know how to get it. When we're generating loving kindness as an energy within our body, feeling suffused like sunlight, feeling suffused like an energy, and bringing that out there, because it's less conceptual. It's more of a feeling energy. Okay. And are there other questions? So there is awareness. There is spaciousness. There is selflessness. There is the capacity that we have, absolutely, to suffuse ourselves with loving kindness, to emanate loving kindness, and to be impactful. That's most important. That accords with the bodhisattva ideal, generating that happiness and being a source, really, of that happiness for others. And sometimes we're silently sending that energy. Sometimes we're just being the embodiment of that energy, and that pervades. There's really different ways that it impacts. We're always in varying life situations. So this is one tool to do that. And for me, it's just a little bit different way of working with loving kindness. It feels like we each can open up our own way with it. I mean, there's many traditional techniques. I really liked this phrase. It's really interesting. And Thupten Chodron coined it in here of what would it be like if. It somehow brings buoyancy to the mind. Like, what would it be like if these groups of people had happiness in its causes? What would it be like if a family had happiness in its causes? And it brings a buoyancy to the mind. We want to be the ones generating that energy. And always to remember that the loving kindness, the right view, emptiness, and also the understanding of impermanence is all intertwined. It's interdependent within these practices. And so these practices are what combine as what's called wisdom and compassion. A lot of the time, it's very interesting. I meditate with my hands either on my knees or sometimes in my lap. I find that when they're on my knees, I can feel a certain, like a triangle, a certain stability. And then actually, Sunday at this yoga class, she said that if your hands are up and open, you actually receive more energy. So if you feel the need to be energized, to have the hands open and up. The only ones, no, it's a good question in terms of the hands. The only ones that I know where there are very particular mudras, like the Zen holds mudra during the whole sitting. And if the hands drop, it's believed that the sleepiness has come in, or the inattention has come in. The hands are held in mudra at the Zen center I went to, and the guy with the stick, he'd want to see, am my thumb still touching or I'm falling off, because the hands would be considered that symbol. So I think experimenting is good. I know my shoulders feel very relaxed when my hands are just resting on my knees. And then, of course, it's different sitting in the chair and sitting on the floor as well. So this is about breath and the body pattern. As we're working with the meditation practices, we're working with the subtle body. That which we generate, loving kindness, is really from the subtle body. The body pattern, the physical structure through which energy flows, is more than just a body. The mental energy of our attitudes and actions create a certain atmosphere which accumulates around us on levels beyond our physical substance. This is sometimes called subtle or etheric body. Even though it cannot ordinarily be seen, it is always part of us. And this kind of reminds me when I was taking some classes from Namkhai Norbu, a long time ago actually, and retreats. He would talk about the importance of paying attention to the kinds of thoughts that we were generating. And he talked about, and this is not something that I personally have seen or known, but he said that there are these little beings and they accumulate, like if there's a lot of negative thinking, they help increase that. And then if there's positive thought, there's other energies that increase positive thought. I thought about that for a while, and I thought, you can always tell when there's like a gathering of negative energy and it increases. Also, when there is a gathering of positive energy, it can also increase. Breath is more than our usual concept of breathing. It is connected with other energies, and its quality changes depending on our emotional state. When we breathe too shallow or too heavy, this affects the rest of our system. When we balance our breath by balancing our emotions, the body and mind come into balance too. Breath is like the bridge between the body and the mind. The subtle body energy can be equated with mind, but not with mind as we know it. Usually the mind formulates experiences into thoughts and concepts, into subject and object, but there is another way of experiencing that does not create dualism. When the mind is balanced, there is no time, no consciousness, no awareness. There is just a special energy that is always present. And so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that special energy of presence. And that's why in the meditation practice, it's important that whenever thought or concept come up, that we recognize them as that. So in our practice earlier, it was the watcher watching or going between thoughts so that we can come into presence. Love you guys for getting that. So we're at the end of our practice. We want to dedicate, and we dedicate this to happiness for all beings and the causes of happiness. People stay on the prayer list for 3 months, and then for the people who've passed, stay on for 49 days. And as we read their names, we just think of them in a loving way, with the wish of all beings to be happy and peaceful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your practice. It's incredible. You all are just doing fabulous, and I so appreciate you.